Color scale creativity. So now we're going to go through a few examples of each different level on the color scale and how that correlates to a type of creativity that each of them get very different results. So it's very important that you use green or blue creativity as much as possible. So let's take a look at the examples here. Number one, we're going to start off with red creativity. So if you get a red idea, so to speak, you can tell that it's red because it's going to have you fight harder, work longer. And sometimes that's needed, but a lot of times if that's just the way forward, then oftentimes it's red creativity. And this could show up in many different things in business, but you know you're kind of stuck in that realm of red because it's long hours, it's constantly fighting, and it's always a battle, okay? Now, gray creativity, what that sounds like is pushing it off. So, pushing it off for later or pushing it off on somebody else, maybe your team. And this is not to be confused with delegating because sometimes delegating is good. Sometimes it's part of a green strategy or even a blue strategy. Yet the key thing is it truly delegating the right thing to the right person in the right way? Or is it delegating by pushing off something that should be your responsibility, but it's pushing off on somebody else? That's the key distinguisher of the gray creativity, because gray creativity is feeling flat, it's feeling unmotivated, feeling numb. So there's a tendency of person not feeling the fire, so then they just push it off on others. And the key thing is that in the gray, it's above the red. So they just battled out of the red and they're like, man, I don't want to feel heavy again. At least I'm at baseline neutral right now. So it avoids and pushes things away. But that oftentimes what happens is people slide back into red. So it's something to be very, very mindful of. So then yellow creativity, at least like the bottom of yellow creativity, you can tell that because it's kind of making do. It's like doing it's like doing things for the right reasons, but it's not fully flowing. It's not fully clicking. So it's just kind of like putting all the bags on your back, and at least you're going in the right direction and you feel like, and you're committed to the cause, but it's not really moving. And you can stay there. We can operate at any of these levels, but it's just, what do we want our life and business to be like? And so the top of yellow, those creative ideas are very complicated. They're effective, they get the job done, but they're very, very complicated. And I know this for myself, with my SEO business. As I was moving my SEO business up these color scales, there's definitely a point where it was top of yellow where it's just very complicated, so complex, and just all these different things. And again, it can be effective, it's good, but there is levels above it. And in green, you start loving it. So if it's an idea where your chest feels light and you're like, wow, okay, here's a solution that feels light and I feel the emotion, I feel the energy, okay, now we're getting into green. And again, as I said before, in every decision that we face, we can choose these ideas. You can imagine, like, there's red ideas, yellow ideas, green ideas, blue ideas, gray ideas floating around us in every moment of every decision that we make. And so that's why it's all about alignment, because if we connect into ourselves and get the channel clear, then we have a better opportunity to get those green and those blue ideas that can come through. And top of green is actually the opposite of yellow. Top of green is simplicity. And so you'll know when you're there, when it feels light and everything just became simple. It's incredible. It's one of the most beautiful things. And especially in a complicatedness, and I've seen this time and time again, where people understand in top of yellow all the different problems that could go wrong, all the different type of solutions, all the different things, and it creates a mess. Now, when a person goes into simplicity in top of green, all of a sudden it's like they understand the essence of exactly what needs to be done and what doesn't. And boom, all of that complexity collapses into the simple essence. And we just know this we can look at this with common sense of those kind of age-old wisdoms, those timeless truths where it's very simple, but it applies to many different levels of life. And this is an example of like parables. When great teachers speak in parables, they've simplified the message to a simple story that actually speaks to different levels of their students. And we can even look at it like this, like the great masters can speak a story, and if someone's in red, they still get something from that story. And in fact, they actually get exactly what they want from it. If it's yellow, they get exactly what they need from it. If it's green, exactly. And that's the true things. And one of the leaders that I look up to in this regard is like Jesus with his parables, is no matter what level of consciousness the person was on, they were getting exactly what they needed from that story. So that's what we look for with this idea of simplicity, top of green. And then blue, you can tell a blue idea if it's abundant giving. So oftentimes with blue ideas, it's about setting up the systems, and let's bring this to business. So it's setting up the systems that give value on their own. And people can come and go on their own timeline, and some will never pay, some will pay. It's about having the right systems, and then over time, it just naturally grows on its own. There's sharing, there's natural growth. And we'll get into this more and more, yet you'll know if you're getting a blue idea of like, okay, this is the system that I can set up that will continuously create value. It'll grow on its own. And oftentimes the blue takes a little bit of patience, and that's why it's the opposite of really the red, because the red is like, we got to go now. We got to fight. We can't let off the gas pedal for even a second. Otherwise, the enemy is going to storm the gates and crash everything we built. It's go, go, go. But what happens with red is oftentimes it misses opportunities, or things that would have matured with a little extra time get squashed. So blue is about flipping the script on that and saying, okay, let me just set up the right things. It's kind of like the watering hole in nature. All of the animals at some point are going to go to the watering hole to drink. Like every animal needs the water. So it's about setting up those ponds, those watering holes, so that of value, and people come on their own. So that's this color scale in terms of creativity, and that's what I challenge you to do and invite you to do, is even with a decision right now, whatever it is in your life, kind of test yourself and say, okay, what's one idea? Where does that fall on the scale? Okay, and see how it feels. And the first thing is to get to a yellow idea. You want to feel where it's like, okay, you feel light, but it feels mix of heavy, and then work with it a bit. Kind of tweak it. It's like, well, okay, what could I tweak to this to make it feel lighter? What could I tweak this to make it feel more simple? And that'll get you to it. And then what happens is, as a person implements those green ideas, more momentum starts happening, and more blue ideas naturally start happening. And then as those stack up, then a person says, wow, you're so creative. How did you think about this? Well, it was just following the system that we all have within us and laying it brick by brick, and using the intelligence of our subconscious mind or of our spirit, whichever way you prefer to look at it. It's there. So we can use that to our advantage in this simple, direct way. That's what I got for you in this video. I'll see you in the next one.